let's talk about what I've been working on in April. So welcome back to any returning viewers, and to any new viewers, a very warm welcome to you. And today we're looking at the things that I've been working on in April. We're very nearly at the end of the month, so it's May next week. So I thought I'd do a little bit of a roundup of what I've had on the go this month. I may possibly have another finished object before the end of the month, maybe, possibly, we'll see, and I'll show you what that is in a second. But without further ado, let's get started with what I am wearing. This is my Sheridan sweater, which has been getting a lot of wear at the moment because although it's almost May, the weather here in the UK has taken a turn for the grotty. So yeah, so we're snuggling up a little bit instead of putting the heating on because it's nearly May. Don't need the heating on at nearly May. It's not like freezing, it's just a little bit on the chilly side, so jumpers are fine to fix that gap. So yeah, so this is getting a lot of wear along with its matching trousers. It's made in a melange sweatshirting from Minerva with coordinating ribbed cuffing. It's a lovely sort of mustardy, ochre-y colour. So yeah, it's very snuggly, very warm, very cosy, and I'm very, very glad at the moment that I made them. So yeah, moving on to finished objects, and I have one. This dress, I will put a picture up of me wearing it. Not that I've tried it on yet since I finished it yesterday, so hopefully I haven't messed up too much. But this dress, I've still got a few loose threads on it here and there, so that needs sorting out. It doesn't look like much when I hold it up here, but hopefully the photo will give you a better sense of what it's like. So yeah, bar the trimming of loose threads, we're done. And this has a crepe lining followed by a metallic organza and then this lovely Chantilly lace, which is got as part of the Minerva brand ambassador program. Just the lace, not the other fabrics. The other fabrics I bought. I have modified a Ewe Sew You pattern, the Lorraine. So modification wise, first of all I had to grade it up significantly because the pattern didn't go anywhere near my size. So that took quite a lot of effort to get the bodice to even close to the fit that I was looking for. The original pattern has a bit of ruched fabric across the bust, so I omitted that because I wasn't looking for that kind of a finish. I swapped out the tie-up straps for flutter sleeves, and I added a slit into the front of the skirt as well. So by far my most time-consuming and complicated make, by far my most challenging modification of a pattern, mostly because of the fit. And in terms of how it's turned out, it's not quite the vision I had in my head. It's not far off, but it's not quite the vision I had in my head, particularly the bust line. It's a much squarer neckline than I had anticipated. That's not to say I'm not happy with the result, I am. It's just not quite how I imagined it. But that happens, it's not a problem. In terms of the finish, I've now learned how to use my rolled hem foot. I haven't quite finessed it yet, so some of my hems are a little bit lettuce leafy, mostly on the organza, so that's just one of those things. The way I've resolved that issue is I've tacked together at the split, where I had to hem the 3 layers of fabric for a neat edge. I tacked the organza and the crepe together. That way, not only has it held those edges straighter than they were following the hemming on the machine, but it also means that I'm going to get the metallic organza flashing out rather than the crepe lining flashing out as I move, which I think will be a better result. And if I end up not liking having that flashing out underneath the lace, I can always go back in and tack down the lace layer to that as well. In terms of hems, I did a turned hem on the crepe and a rolled hem on the organza. I did a rolled hem down the slit on the lace, but opted to leave the bottom hem and the sleeve hems raw on the lace. Lace doesn't really unravel, so you don't need a hem for security. You need it for if you want a particular look to the edge of your dress. And I was intending on doing rolled hems, but given that my skills are not quite where I want them to be, and the rolled hems weren't turning out quite how I wanted them to be, particularly on the lace. I was having trouble with the bobbin thread coming through and looking kind of scrappy and messy. So I opted to leave them raw, and again I can always go back in and hem them at a later date if I change my mind. I thought it was easier that way than putting a hem on, not being happy with it and trying to undo it in lace. So yeah, I will be practicing with my rolled hem foot, so I have some chiffon to be hemming in a month or two. Hopefully in a month. If it's 2 months, then I'm going to be behind schedule. But hey, enough of that. That's a project you won't be seeing until August. So yeah, so rolled hem foot needs a bit of practice, or I need to find an alternative way of hemming those lightweight fabrics, which might mean hand hemming, which is, you know, fine. So yeah, so that's my sewing, that's my finished object. So let's take a look at my works in progress, of which I have a little pile, mostly out of shot here, and we will start with my nearly finished object. Let's get this the right way up. Okay, so this is the Bereket by Tokyo Tiku, who used to be known as Mama's Teddy Bear. This is part of a knit-along, and it's taking place on Instagram and Discord. I'll put the details up here for you. This is a lovely pattern. It does work up quite quickly. I've just been taking my time on it because the knit-along is quite a long knit-along, doesn't finish till June. So it's a knit from one cuff to another. I have lengthened this section of the sleeve, and I have doubled the width of the cuff on the sleeve because I wanted longer sleeves. Then we have these bobbly caterpillar-y type rows across the shoulder, stocking stitch in the middle, more caterpillaries, and the sleeve same as before. I have done the neck ribbing with a rolled bind off, Italian rolled bind off. I did a Italian tubular cast on, as well as the Italian tubular cast off. I just have the hem ribbing left to do, so that should be finished the next week or so. I've been spit splicing this yarn. It's the Sport Weight Wool of the Andes from Knit Picks, so it is spit spliceable, which is great. It means minimal ends to weave in, and we like that. So yeah, so that's very, very nearly finished. Looking forward to wearing that. It's going to need a bit of a block to sort of sense where it's going to end on my body. I think I'm probably going to do a deeper hem than in the pattern to match the cuffs. So I'll do the same depth of ribbing as I did there for balance. But overall, it's a lovely pattern. It's knitting up really nicely. I've mastered backwards knitting to do the bobbles, so I can do those bobble rows without flipping my work because it's knit in the flat at that point. But yeah, really enjoying it, and part of the knit along, we're having monthly Zoom meetings, so that's been nice as well. So yeah, enjoying that one. Finished object soon for that. In my a bit further away from being finished projects, let's start with the ones that you've seen before. So we'll start with Baragan. So this was a knit along in the Knitter magazine. I didn't even worry about keeping up with the monthly releases. I'm currently on clue 2. So I have another couple of repeats of this meshy pattern to do on this side. Then I have to repeat this whole thing on that side. So yeah, we are making progress on this lacy wrap scarf from the Knitter. I think it was issue 146, 145, one of those two that had the first clue in, and then there was a clue each issue for 4 issues. And the yarn is Macintosh BFL, which is hand dyed for this project. It came as a kit with the subscription to the magazine, which is largely why I got the subscription, because I wanted this project in this yarn. So yeah, so enjoy knitting on this. It is very much a daytime, when I've not got too much else going on, kind of a project. No idea when I'll get it finished, but there's no rush. It's got no designated purpose for it other than, you know, keeping my neck warm. So yeah, so enjoying that. One thing I have realised is that at some point during this session I forgot to slip my first stitch on each row. So that's going to be fun when I come back to pick up for the border. But that's a future Zoe problem, so not going to worry too much about that. And I have to say, it is quite nice to be knitting on straights. I learnt to knit on straights, but I mostly knit on circulars these days. So it's making a nice sort of change of pace to knit on straights. I won't be doing it all that often, but yeah, nice change of pace. So that's that. And the other project that you've seen before that I've actually worked on in April is my Tolster. So I haven't done a huge amount of work on this, but I've done some. So the Tolster is a pattern by Rebecca Clow, Crea, and it's a basic t-shirt pattern. I did not get anywhere close to gauge with this combination of yarn and needles. I'm knitting it out of Holst Garn Coast, which is a wool cotton blend, and Holst being Holst, the yarn is pretty thin. So my gauge is well and truly off from the pattern, which meant I had to sort of adapt as I went with the raglan increases, but they seem fine. I have opted to stripe mine, and I'm putting in a slip stitch pattern at the change of rows. Rebecca does encourage you to modify and put your own spin on the Tolster in the pattern. So I have worked this dark stripe here, and I'm now into the next light stripe this month. So not a huge amount of knitting, given that it's mostly stocking stitch, but some work has been done. The reasons for me not having done so much on this is partly the barraquette, trying to get that closer to being finished, because although the knit on doesn't finish till June, I want to wear it. And whilst we've had a bit of a turn in the weather, now would be a good time to be doing that. So yeah, so that hasn't been getting as much love, partly because of the barraquette, and partly because when I got to the point of only having the ribbing left, I kept going on to like my knitting group or various other things, or watching TV, the things I had to pay attention. I've been watching Shogun, so you've got to read the subtitles. So I didn't want to be picking up stitches for the ribbing whilst on a Zoom call or whilst watching a programme where I needed to read the subtitles, because that way disaster lies. Counting and reading, not a good combination. So instead of picking up the ribbing, I cast on a project that I've had needle adjacent for a little while. I bought, when I did the last Stephen West mystery knit along shawl, which was made out of the yarn, the same yarn as I'm using for the Tolster. That's the leftover yarn for that, because obviously Stephen West shawls, he always quotes more yarn than you need. I buy as much as he said, or when it's Holst, usually more than he said, because of the way their yardage works. Normally it's more than just the one cake, but not quite as much as the two. So I usually get 2 cakes, which means I have a lot left over. So yeah, so the Tolster is out of the leftover from that shawl, and I bought a backup set of yarn, which was Holst Garn Super Soft at the same time, in case I didn't want to knit it, in case one of the yarn arrived, I didn't want to knit it out of the Coast, because I hadn't worked with Coast before. The Super Soft I have worked with before. So all that being said, I cast on a new project, which looks a little bit funky at the minute. So I've got 4 colours of the Holst Garn Super Soft in a gradient format, being held with some Drops Silk Mohair in the almond colourway. I believe it's the almond. Does it tell me on here, or does it just give me a number? Yeah, it just gives me a number. I'm sure it said almond when I ordered it. But anyway, I'm holding the Super Soft with the mohair to help blend things in and help to get the gauge and warmth and everything. And this is the Wellsbury sweater, which is by Amy Loudon. Can't think of her username at the moment, but I'll pop that up. This is the back. So this particular sweater, you start knitting the right back. It's written for shadow wrap short rows. I've not done shadow wraps before, so that was interesting. I'm going to wait until I finish the sweater to decide whether I like them or not, because again, first time using them, it's going to take a few goes to actually work out how to do them. So you knit the right back. You can either knit it in one colour, you can grade in different colours. How you change colours is up to you. So again, lots of flexibility. So you just knit the first half of the back, just the right back. Then you start the left back, which you knit onto the right back. And if you're doing colour changes, you do your colours in the reverse order. If you're doing solid colours, you would do a completely different colour. I can see this being done for like checkerboards and jesters and things. And you end up with this lovely, neat seam down the middle of the back where you're knitting things together. So we are at the slightly peculiar looking stage. I haven't tried knitting with this project. I've been knitting this on Zoom calls mostly. So I think you probably could read with this. You would obviously be stopping and checking what you're doing at the end of each right side row so that you can knit onto the other back. And once I've done the back, you do the same process with the front. And yeah, the sleeves are also done in a gradient. So it's a really funky construction. I liked the look of it. She does hers, Amy does hers in like pastels. Or the sample that's pictured in the pattern is done in like pastels. I can see it being done in rainbows, and that would look quite funky. I can see it being done very much in like a medieval, stereotypical jester, you know, green and red, making a Christmas jumper that way. I'm going to be knitting the balloon sleeves, but there is an option for narrower sleeves as well. So there's lots of flexibility in that pattern. It's nicely written. There's one page of all the techniques. So that gives you advice. There's a page that gives you advice on changing colours if you want to. There's a page that gives you how to work and resolve the shadow wraps both on the knit side and the purl side. And then you've got the instructions for each section of the pattern. So it is nice and clear. You do have to flick a little bit back between the pages to like double check how to do the shadow rows and that kind of thing. But I mean, that's the same in most patterns anyway. So it's not really like it's an issue, but yeah, all the information is there, and it's, as I say, it's got two options for the sleeves as well. So yeah, we're enjoying that pattern, really looking forward to having that as a finished object as well in time for the autumn. And it means I'm using up at least some of the yarn that I bought that I ended up not needing. I will most likely have a fair chunk of that yarn left as well, because the yardage on Hosgarn is so good. I don't think, well, I'm not going to need all of it. I may or may not need to go into the second cakes of each colour, we'll see. So yeah, so I started that to avoid picking up stitches for ribbing. And I started something else to also avoid picking up stitches for ribbing, because when I've already got multiple garments on the go, including one that I'd only just cast on, why wouldn't I start something new as well? This at least is a different craft. This is a crochet project. I don't have, well, I have one crochet garment that I made. I've only ever made one crochet garment, and that was one of those mandala cardigans. I don't wear it very much. I still have it, but I don't really wear it. It doesn't fit my current style. But I would do like the look of the granny square cardigans. But I hadn't found a pattern that really sort of grabbed me. Not that I couldn't have worked out how to do a granny square cardigan, but why math it out when you're used to mathing out maths? Crochet is a different beast. So yeah, my international knitting group, so I'm a part of International Virtual Knit Nights. I don't run it, I'm just a member. We meet on Zoom up to 3 times a week. I'm usually on once a week at the moment. There's people all around the world that knit on there, and we quite often will go, oh, that's a nice pattern. And before you know it, there's an informal knit along going on. Well, this has happened with crochet this time round, and we have all kind of, well, quite a few of us have fallen for the Jethro pattern. I can't remember the name of the designer, so I'll put that up on the screen for you. So I picked out some yarn, popped it in a basket. These are my extra colours in case I need them. and these are the colours that I'm mostly using. And I have made a start on some granny squares. I'm holding them together with a stitch holder, just to keep them neat and tidy and stop the cat playing with them. So I have 4 variations of the granny square, one with the white outside, one with the olive outside, light green, and this sort of bright green. So I'm making sets of 4 at a time. Granny squares, I need to make 65 in total for my size. I think I've just about got enough yarn in those 4 colours of West Yorkshire Spinners sock yarn. It's a signature 4-ply solid colour sock yarn. Everything apart from the light blue in this basket is West Yorkshire Spinners. The light blue, this one, is from Hobby. Everything else is West Yorkshire Spinners. It's a DK weight pattern, and I'm working in fingering weight, so I am holding double. So I caked everything up. Normally West Yorkshire Spinners I just knit through the ball as it comes, because you can. But because I'm holding it double, I caked it up so I can pull from the outside and the inside simultaneously. I'm thinking something like Dusty Miller, that light grey, would be a good option for joining these together and working the sleeves. The sleeves and the ribbing are knit, and the rest is crochet. So it's a combination project. So looking forward to having that as well. It'll be my first crochet, actual proper cardigan. So yes, when I need a break from knitting, this is happening. So yeah, so that's all my projects that I've been working on in April. I do obviously have whips sitting around, partially done, that haven't been touched all month. And I do have wedding stuff on the go, but like I said, that's not going to be shared until after the wedding, because surprises. So they're on the go as well. Aiming to have them finished by the end of June, because that then gives me a couple of weeks at the start of July, if necessary, for like just any tidying up stuff, or if anything goes wrong. So we're going to be having a big push on wedding stuff in May, so that will impact the amount of time I spend doing other things. You're not going to see very much in the way of sewing between now and August, essentially, because the majority of the sewing that I'm going to be doing is wedding related, and that's when I'm going to be sharing that. The main exception to that is my other half and I went out for a cup of tea. Well, we were in town and we decided to pop into the vintage tea rooms for a cup of tea before we came back. We ended up having a very nice cream tea in there. So scones, clotted cream, jam, lovely. And as I was paying, my other half noticed that there was a Singer sewing machine, a vintage Singer sewing machine box sat on the side with a £50 label on it. And having grown up being taken to car boot sales, his radar was up and he was like, oh, I wonder if there's actually a sewing machine in that. Turns out there was. So we came home with a 1939 Singer sewing machine, a hand cranked Singer sewing machine, for 50 quid, which is a bargain. There was also a label inside for 175, but the women in the tea rooms, because they sell vintage china and that sort of stuff in there as well. The woman in the vintage tea rooms was like, well, you're not paying that for it, you're paying the £50 for it. So I'm like, oh, yeah, fair enough. So yes, we've got that. So I now have 2 hand cranked sewing machines. I probably won't worry about actually using the Troyer Cola because I've now got the Singer. The reason for that being, in I believe the 1920s, everything sewing machine related pretty much got standardised, and they were standardised to the Singer specs. So needles were standardised, bobbins were standardised, all that sort of stuff, which means that my modern needles and my modern bobbins I can use with the Singer. I can't use them with the Troyer Cola, they won't work. The Troyer Cola's also got a a boat shuttle in it, which is a completely different beast. As far as I'm aware, the Troicola is in working order. I just need to put the right sort of needles in it, but it predates standardization. So the Singer is going to be more of an actually getting used vintage machine. I do have a project in mind for that, which I will hopefully get to in the next few weeks. Well, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, get that out of the way. Just to make sure that I can actually thread it up and sew it. So I will obviously share that once I've had a go. And it would mean that I can then sew later into the evening, because it's a quieter machine than the electric machines. Not that it's too much of a problem. The craft room is on the exterior side of the house. It's not on the wall that we share with the neighbours. We're at the end of the terrace. So I don't think I would be disturbing people too much if I was to sew late into the evening. But for my own peace of mind, having a quieter machine I think is going to be better. So yes, so that's coming up. But yeah, otherwise it's going to be mostly getting these knitting projects and crochet projects worked on and finished. I might actually pick up those socks again at some point and get to the heel. But we are moving towards the summer, and I don't wear my hand knit socks so much over the summer, so there's less urgency to get them done. That being said, small projects like socks are good to work on in the summer, so we'll see. So yeah, so that's all the projects, a little bit of plans for what's coming up over the next month or so. Don't think I've got anything else to mention. I think that's your lot. Okay, so I best go and try this dress on so I can put some photos in for you back when I spoke about it, because editing me is going to need to do that, so she'll need the photos. Okay, so thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I'd love to see you in the next one, but until then, there is this video here that may be of interest to you, and until next time, happy crafting and bye-bye for now.